Welcome to the 26th meeting in 2025 of the Delegated Powers and Law Reform Committee. I'd like to remind everyone to please switch off or put to silent their mobile phones and other electronic devices. The first item of business is to decide whether to take items 5, 6, 7, 8 and 9 in private. Is the committee content to take these items in private?
Yes.
Under agenda item number 2, we're considering an instrument subject to the affirmative procedure. Issues have been raised on the draft Carers Assistance, Miscellaneous and Consequential Amendments, Revocation, Transitional and Savings Provisions, Scotland Regulations 2025. The main purpose of this instrument is to amend the Carers Assistance, Carer Support Payment, Scotland Regulations 2023 to make provision for the introduction of carer support consisting of carer support payment, carer additional person payment and Scottish Carer Supplement. It also makes some other changes related to carers. In correspondence, which has been published alongside the papers for this meeting, the committee asked the Scottish Government 3 questions about this instrument. First, we asked about an apparently missing year and a date given in the instrument. The Scottish Government clarified that the correct year would have been 2026 and has committed to amend this by correction slip or amending instrument to ensure this is sufficiently clear. Does the committee wish to report on the general reporting ground that there is a missing year and the date referenced in Regulation 17(1)(b)?
Yes.
And the committee also asked the Scottish Government about references to paragraph 3 in Regulation 17(3). The Scottish Government responded that these are typographical errors and the references should be to paragraph 2 of Regulation 17. Again, the Scottish Government committed to address this, either by correction slip or an amending instrument, to ensure the regulation is sufficiently clear. Does the committee wish to report on the general reporting ground that there are erroneous references to paragraph 3 in Regulation 17(3)?
Yes.
Finally, the committee asked the Scottish Government about a date given in Schedule 2 of the instrument, which is the 15th of March 2025. The Scottish Government agreed that this was an error and should have been 15th of March 2026. Again, the Scottish Government committed to address this by correction slip or amending instrument. Does the committee wish to report on the general reporting ground that there is an erroneous reference to the 15th of March 2025 in Schedule 2, paragraph 1, 4A3? And in relation to all of the reporting errors noted above, does the committee wish to welcome that the Scottish Government has committed to correcting these errors?
Yes.
Under agenda item number 3, we're considering instruments subject to the negative procedure. Issues have been raised on SSI 2025-245, the Motor Vehicles, Competitions and Trials, Miscellaneous Amendment, Scotland Regulations 2025. The committee asked the Scottish Government a number of questions on the instrument, set out in full in the papers for today's meeting. The legislation regulating motor vehicle events makes a distinction between, and I quote, race or trial of speed between motor vehicles, end of quote, that can be authorised under the Motorsport and Public Roads Scotland Regulations 2019, which are referred to as the Motorsport Regulations, and I quote, competition or trial other than a race or trial of speed involving the use of motor vehicles, end of quote, that can be authorised under the Motor Vehicles Competitions and Trials Scotland Regulations 1976, and I'll refer to them as the Competition Regulations. The instrument before the committee today makes amendments to the second of these regulations, the Competitions Regulations, including by designating 4 named rallies as specified events for the purposes of those regulations. We asked the Scottish Government for an explanation of the background and for confirmation that the 4 named rallies are of the type regulated by the competitions regulations. The Scottish Government provided further information regarding the 2 different types of motor events. The Government advised that the 4 named rallies are trials of speed, subject to the authorisation under the Motorsport Regulations, rather than the competitions regulations, and that they are not a type of event that is in fact capable of being authorised under the competitions regulations. Designating them in the competitions regulations was described as an oversight. Designating them as specified events does not mean that they can, in fact, be authorised under the competitions regulations. Authorisation is subject to an application process, And we understand that if an application was made for authorisation under the competition's regulations for these 4 rallies in their traditional form as trials of speed, they would not meet the criteria and authorisation would not be granted. The committee considers that inserting references to these 4 rallies in the competition's regulations is a very significant drafting error and is capable of causing confusion as to the applicable authorisation process. The Scottish Government intends to make amending regulations to correct this error at the earliest possible opportunity. Does the committee wish to draw this error to the attention of the Parliament under reporting ground I, that the drafting appears to be defective?
Yes.
And does the committee wish to note that the Scottish Government intends to correct this error at the earliest possible opportunity and to call upon the Scottish Government to do so as a matter of urgency?
Yes.
Also in relation to this instrument, the committee asked the Scottish Government about one of the rallies specified in the legislation, as the name appeared to be incorrect. The Scottish Government confirmed that the reference should have been to the Roger Albert Clark Rally rather than the Robert Albert Clark Rally, and also intends to correct this error by amending instrument. Does the committee wish to report that this error on the general reporting ground and to note that the Scottish Government intends to correct it?
Yes.
Finally, in this instrument, the committee asked the Scottish Government whether the reference to public way in the final line of new Regulation 7 of the Principal Regulations could be clearer. The Principal Regulations instead use the term public highway, reflecting the Principal Regulations Parent Act. The Scottish Government responded that it considers the reference to be unambiguous given the definition of the term in the Enabling Act, but undertook to reflect on whether consistency of approach would be desirable. Does the committee wish to report this point on the general reporting ground?
Yep. Yes.
Does the committee wish to note that the Scottish Government is undertaking to reflect on this point?
Yes.
Also under this agenda item, no issues have been raised on SSIs 2025, 241, 249 and 251. Is the committee content with these instruments?
Yes.
In relation to SSI 2025-241, is the committee content with the explanation provided by the Scottish Government regarding the application of Section 46 of the United Kingdom Internal Market Act 2020 to this instrument, and content with the assurance that special regard has been had to matters specified in that section? And does the committee wish to invite the Scottish Government to consider whether it would be appropriate to make reference in the accompanying documents for any future relevant instruments to the application of Section 46 and to the factors that have been taken into account in complying with that section? Under agenda item number 4, we're considering documents subject to parliamentary control. No points have been raised on the draft Code of Practice, the non-party campaigner campaign expenditure, the Scottish Parliament elections Code of Practice 2025, and the draft statutory guidance on imprints for non-party campaigners at Scottish parliamentary elections and council elections in Scotland. Is the committee content with these instruments?
Yep. Yes.
Thank you. And that now concludes the public part of the meeting, and I move the committee into private.